We should be having a conversation about whether we should even be doing these surgeries to people at 18. But certainly before 18, it's absurd. I mean, do you think that a 16-year-old can meaningfully consent to having their body parts removed? Do you? No?
We do not. Yeah, we ask the questions. It's not you. It's Representative Hammer, you are recognized. No more questions? Okay. Representative Clemens, you are recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you give us a summary of your educational background or your healthcare education experience?
Mr. Walsh, you are recognized.
My experience in healthcare?
Your educational background. I'm just curious. You testified as to a lot of your own research. So I'm curious for what purpose you do that and what background you have to qualifies you to speak to that.
Well, my background that qualifies me to speak to this is that I'm a human being with a brain and common sense, and I have a soul. And so, therefore, I think it's a really bad idea to chemically castrate children. That is my experience.
Is that silence I hear? The silence is just so loud that it speaks for itself. Don't stutter, sir. Speak up.
Ask you this: if you guys think the wage gap exists, if Brian could hire the two of us and get away with paying me 75% less, why wouldn't he do that? And why wouldn't the entire workforce be basically all female? Like, there's this great loophole that corporate America has that you just like get to save 25% on expenses if you hire women.
True.
So does the wage gap exist?
I just think you're brainwashed.
Something.
You think I'm brainwashed? You just said you're a feminist and you can't even give me one way to explain why you are.
That's a say. I just think
Feminism to me means that I feel empowered. Okay, like I just feel like I feel like women should be able to exercise their independence. That's I mean, there's a lot of.
How can you not exercise your independence in today's society?
I just feel like that there's a lot of social norms that that I don't know if I'm best explaining this, but I mean, I think that there is a lot of expectations for women to behave a certain way, and I think like pushing out of those norms or those cultural norms is.
Are there not expectations for men to behave a certain way too?
Yes, there are, absolutely. But when I say that I'm a feminist, I mean like I feel like females are empowered. That's what that means to me.
But implied in that, I feel like, is that there are societal forces that are stripping you away of your empowerment. So I guess what I'm saying is, wage gap aside, how are you not empowered? I would almost argue it's easier to start a business in America as a woman. You have preferential treatment when it comes to loans, preferential hiring processes. Literally just because you're a woman, women are the majority of college graduates. I mean, life being a woman, I feel like in some ways kind of life on easy mode if you play into the corporate structure. So how are you not? I mean, they literally have empowerment programs that they don't allow men, let alone straight white men, in. So there's literally a multi-billion-dollar corporate push to empower women. So how are you not empowered?
I'm just saying, like, I am a proponent of feeling empowered.
I'm a proponent of female empowerment too. People say my boss is a misogynist and he is a female co-host, but I think female empowerment doesn't come from pretending that there are issues in society, saying that we're unequal to men. And I think if you guys all consider, you think I'm brainwashed, you can think that, but you also espouse an ideology that you can't even give me literally one example why you actually believe it, let alone define it, but you just slap that label on because that's what mainstream society's told you to believe. So I think you're actually the one who's brainwashed.
I'm brainwashed.
Girl, you are so.
Imagine listening to someone school you on everything you've ever gotten wrong, including the flaws in your ideology, and all you can come up with as a perfect enough response is, you're brainwashed. How typical.
We are in a different time now. Back in the day, women could not work at all. So they had to marry a man so they can survive. Yeah, I think they had it right. They should have kept it like this. Yeah. But anyways, they had to marry a man or whatever the case is just to survive at that point. And so they had traditional roles, which was, I'm not at work all day, so I'm at home, I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm taking care of the children, I'm making sure your lunch is packed, I'm making sure you're good, and I'm here to serve you, okay? And what I realized is there's a lot of modern men that want a traditional woman, but they don't want to be a traditional man. So you want a woman to come home from a job, just like you did, clean, cook, do the laundry, take care of the kids, and handle everything in the household. And you guys are both going to work. Do you see how that don't make sense?
No, it does
It
make
makes
sense.
sense to
And
me.
yes, I do want you
And
to
I
do
would
that.
do that.
And then, because guess what? When the tub or the light break down, you not fixing it. I
But
am.
that's an everyday job.
Be the hell
It's an
quiet right now.
everyday-
See,
it's
that's
an
the problem.
everyday job.
That's the problem. You're
Are
not
you
fit to be-
delusional?
No,
I
no.
don't give a. It's an everyday
You do
job
give a
for
fuck.
a woman to come home, cook, clean, and take care of the kids, and
First of
also
all-
go to a job like a man. So
First of
you're
all-
telling me that a woman has to go work like a man every day, and a man goes work, and he's tired when he gets home. A woman's not tired. She has to clean, cook, do the dishes, do the laundry. Are you kidding me?
I
The
have a
reason
better
why that
question. I have a
happened-
better
but
question.
The reason why that happened and the reason why that was going on back in the day is because a woman was not working. A woman
My
was not
question
going to
is-
work every day.
Okay, but my question is, why don't you want to do that?
What are you talking about? Why don't I want to do it? You know
Pause.
how
Let
fucking
me-
tiring
first-
that is? Have you done that?
First of
Have
all,
you done that?
I do it every day.
First of all, yeah.
For a
First
second
of all,
for a man, a messy
Azar.
ass man and children.
I
Have you
can't-
first
done
of all,
that?
I can't
first of all,
wait.
Azar,
What?
yelling doesn't mean you're winning an argument. It's a sign of low intelligence. You can lower your voice and speak to me. I'm sitting right.
When you know you have no argument, and so you have to raise your voice and speak over everyone else to seem like you are making a point.
Jacob, let me ask you this. How do you think they would have large-scale, long-term studies about the effects of these drugs and these surgeries on children when we only started doing it to children at a large scale a few years ago? So how could that even exist?
Yeah, I think scale is probably one of the more prevalent challenges of these studies.
Okay, so we're already hearing that there are challenges in these
Yeah,
studies.
every study has challenges. Like any scientific truth, like all of the scientific truth that we take for granted today, they're built on methodologies that fundamentally have flaws. Like if you want to make a specific critique, you can do that. If you're talking
Good.
Well, if you're talking about sample size, there are very well demonstrated statistical results that you don't need 10,000 people to get like a statistically significant value.
Yes,
No,
you do.
don't.
Yeah, here's-
No, absolutely not. It's like a very basic statistical
Jacob,
fact.
here's-
Like
Jacob.
a sample size greater than 1,000, that can that has very nice asymptotic properties. Like
Jacob, here's what I know. If you want to even begin to claim that a study has proven that castrating and sterilizing little boys helps them in the long run, then you would need to have a large sample size of children who've gone through these procedures, and we've checked back with them in adulthood to see how they're doing. Those studies do not exist. They can't exist because we weren't doing this to kids at anywhere near this scale even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. What that tells us, Jacob, is that the kids we have right now, they are the sample.
Actually,
Okay,
that's not
they
always
are
case.
the
There is a
experiment.
specific study.
We are experimenting on children right now.
That's just demonstrably, you can easily demonstrate that that's not the
And
case.
are you, Jacob, are you able to just use your common sense as well? I mean, you can rely on studies and you can just shout the word study at me and then start,
No, I'm not
you can start, let me finish.
Sorry.
You can shout about studies and list random medical organizations. That doesn't impress me. There was a time when every medical organization would have told you that, bloodletting is the way to cure every disease.
Sure.
There was a time when every medical organization told you that the vaccine, stopped transmission. So,
Yeah.
but here's what I want to know. Are we able to just use common sense as well? And based on common sense, determine that it is certainly not a good idea to sterilize and castrate children and remove body parts from children before they are possibly old enough to consent to those procedures. Don't we know that just based on basic moral decency and common sense?
Sure, but you're trying to make causal statements about the impacts of medical interventions. You need to demonstrate that with science, and I'm not mentioning, and I'm not like making an ethos argument. Oh, like look at this organization. I'm saying that there are like very rigorous ways to substantiate your claims, and the people that are spending lots of time are doing that, and they come to conclusions that are very different from the ones that you say. I'm not making an appeal to ethos. Anybody can look up these studies and just see how they're done.
Right, and these are also studies being done by the people who it just so happens are profiting from the procedures that they say work, which is really interesting. But
do you think your professors are getting paid by like some?
Yeah, a lot of them are.
You think there's somebody like paying your professors for? I think you should.
How do you think it works, Jacob?
Because that's very unrealistic.
Do you think they're not being paid?
No,
they ain't doing this for free. I'll tell you that.
No. They're definitely being paid. But like, if there's some shady organization paying them, like, I'm sorry, that's sort of silly. Like, talk with your professors. That's like sort of silly.
Okay. Let me at least
How
ask.
can you know anything? There's always some conspiracy.
I think you can know things without asking for permission sometimes from professors to say that you know them.
No, I'm just saying.
And one of those things that you can know is that it's never okay to castrate a child. I don't need, Jacob.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay. All right. Good conversation.
Imagine using all those words and still can't pass your point across. This sure is a waste of 4 years of education.
Listen, let's just cut the kayfabe. Do you know who I am? I'm Primetime 99 Pimp on a Blimp. I wear the tuck-friendly bathing suit. I've done it all. I've done this gimmick a million times over. I know what it's like to put on the dress, to try to be funny. And for me, I'm just being honest with you, Josh, it's caused me a lot of backlash. As a matter of fact, you get a lot of hate for doing it, not necessarily from the left-leaning people that you're making fun of, but you'll never be accepted by the right side either, because they're always going to consider you a freak. I'm just telling you this as a friend. I know this is a bit, I know it's a gimmick, and I know you're trolling, and I love it because I do the same thing. But how long do you think you can do this for, dude? I mean, let's just be real. I mean, I know this as a comedian, and you know this as a person that I've been on reality TV, you've been on reality TV, and I am a fan of yours, Josh, and I have the utmost respect for you, and I'm not just saying that. How long are you going to do this bit for? I mean, it can only last so long. You can only put on the tuck-friendly bathing suit so long.
Well, it's not a bit for me. It may have been a bit for you, but for me, it's how I feel.
Josh, you're lying. You know, what did your parents say about this? Does your mom or dad know about this? Are you close to them?
I'm close with some family members, yeah.
And I'm sure that they do not like this because they know that Josh is a bodybuilding guy that likes to slam babes. That's why he's on The Bachelorette. And they know this is all a gimmick, and you have 1 million Instagram followers, and now you're going super viral, and I know what that's like. And what people don't understand is when you have the mindset that you and I have, we don't care. I don't care. People can make fun of you. That's not me, like, kind of confronting you right now. It's not going to hurt your feelings. But your family, they could be embarrassed by this. Do you not feel any sort of, guilt to them? Not for you, because I see you're like me. We don't have a lot of shame. But your loved ones, they know it's a bit. I mean, why are you going to do this to them for so long, Josh?
Yeah, I'm just living my authentic truth. And
come on, Josh, show me too. Quit playing with me. I'm the pimp on a blimp, Josh. I can do this bit. I can do this dance with you. We can joke around, and I'll be nice, and I'll say all the transgender. But you know it's a work. This is a gimmick. This is like professional wrestling. Sorry, I'm not trying to yell at a beautiful lady like you, but what are we gonna do?
This is a joke that has stretched on for too long. Take off that dress, sir. You know you aren't fooling anyone with that act.
Is that gender can be fluid and it does not affect other people. It does not affect other people's lives.
I literally just showed you an example where it affects other people. Women who don't want to share those spaces. Now you're saying that those women's spaces should be defined by their biological sex at birth. Yes or no?
I don't know. What I'm saying.
So it literally affects other people. You're really nice. But the cult got you.
The cult. You think people being told they can have a certain gender or a certain sexuality is a cult?
People thinking you can pretend to be something you're not, and the whole world's going to go along with it, including the people, yes, it affects, is a cult. And you, I feel for you because you're stuck.
Nothing to see here, just another wokie who has been brainwashed to forget everything she was ever taught in biology.
That he wants to deal with. So we have.
Is he bisexual or he's straight?
No, he's not bisexual. Oh. Baby, I like a real man.
Okay.
All right, a real man.
I would say that a real man wouldn't allow his woman, wouldn't get into a serious relationship with the woman that is open on her end and other men are smashing her. He's not secure in his position in a relationship to set boundaries and say, hey, I don't want you talking to other women and other men. So therefore, he is insecure, and it is an ego. He lacks ego. He lacks confidence.
No. Well, so when you speak of a real man, you're speaking of my father. That's a real man.
So why don't you date a man like your father?
Oh, I'm looking for a man like my daddy. I'm looking for like a man like my daddy.
Time out.
A man
Pause.
doesn't,
Stop.
because
Rewind.
what
Let's
you
bring it back.
convert and who you claim to be makes
Real
you
quick.
a real man. A real man is what you stand by and what you live by every
Got it.
single
Real
day.
quick, real quick.
My father is a man that wakes
I
up
got
and he's
you.
peaceful. He prays for me. He sends me good energy.
I got it, Nay.
That's
I
a
got
man.
it, Nay. Calm down.
He should have asked her if her dad would be happy the fact.
I cut you off. I'm the host. You got to stop talking. We're not going to go on these long
I'm not going to
rants.
stop talking because you the host. Because
Okay,
when you
well,
speak, I give you nothing but respect.
Time out. If you not
Nothing
gonna,
but respect.
it's very simple, Nay. If you
And I
not
ain't
going
leaving.
to,
So we gonna sit here. We gonna debate all day, baby. I'm a boy.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Baby. I
That's
love
what you think.
You gonna
These
love
are,
me too.
Yeah, these are the rules of the podcast, and all the
All right.
girls heard.
So only the host could speak
Time
when
out.
everyone else
Listen,
is talking.
you still speak. Time out. You still speaking while I'm speaking.
I am.
Got it. Slow it down. Right? You just admitted that.
Don't invite nobody on your
man,
podcast.
You
want
just admitted
disrespect
that
them.
your
Go ahead,
man
talk your
ain't
shit.
that man. That your father is that man.
No, he is that man.
No, he ain't.
said
Your man
he
isn't
take care
that
of
man.
everything
You
I
just
need him to
admitted
take
that.
care of. I don't have to
You
cheat
just
with
admitted
him.
that.
I feel sorry
But
for whoever
listen,
you date because, baby, I could never be trapped in the box.
We
I
actually
like
gonna end this. You
pussy so much. I
up out of here. It's time for you to go.
I ain't
You're
going
not paying-
nowhere. And I let him talk. The whole time he spoke. But we know his podcast.
It is what it is. Nah, I'm good, mama. I'm good, mama. Don't touch me, mama. I'm good, mama. Don't touch me.
Meeting you.
Nay, come on, man.
Step out.
Respectfully.
He a little bitch ass
Step
nigga.
out. Step.
Classic. She wants a man who's going to be open to watching her get passed around by different men while he remains loyal to her and continues being her provider. The double standards she set are so high up, even she can't reach them.
Just wait for the cops. You started driving at me, so I stopped.
You can't drive for
Started driving at me, so I stopped. You drove the front of your car into mine. You drove the front of your car into mine. Here's the cops. The cops. Well, I'm pressing charges now.
Stop! You can't press charges.
I'm pressing
You're
charges.
recording me without my permission, bitch.
It's illegal.
I will do whatever I want. Knock it off.
Yep.
Stop recording me. Stop recording me.
Hit my phone.
Stop
You
recording
just hit my
me.
phone. Hit my phone. She just spit on me. She hit my phone. She hit my car.
Right, this thing over here. Hold on. Let me put my phone in my phone. This is it, bro. What the f is this? How you gonna arrest me?
You're not
bro?
under arrest right now. No.
How you gonna arrest me? Bro, I got places to be. Bro, I got places to be. What the f on, bro?
That's tough, you know?
He cannot record me.
And you can't hit him, okay?
I didn't hit him.
She did.
When you are a whole-grown adult woman and can't even maintain simple decorum, how are you going to be the cause of the issue and still get mad over the outcomes? Causing trouble and still claiming to know your rights is crazy work. Talk about not being very demure.
Before I state my question, I just want to honor that we are all standing on the land that belongs to the Ojibwe Anishinaabe people.
Thank you for mentioning that. I meant to mention that at the beginning of my speech, but I'm glad that
Dakota, Northern Cheyenne, and they have been here for time immemorial, and so that leads into my question. So you make the statement that transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, and so I'm going to ask you a question about that, but prior to that, I want to just state that for 5,000 years BC, Gala transcribed and androgynous trans priests of Sumerian goddesses have been around and noted. 200 to 300 years before Christ in ancient Greece, there were gods worshipped by Gali priests who wore feminine attire and identified as women. Since we are standing on Anishinaabe land, Turtle Island, which is the nation that we live under, has
I don't
had
live under
two-spirited
Turtle
people.
Island.
Right, well, maybe you should read a little more Indigenous knowledge books. And Indigenous communities have used two-spirit personas for the entirety of their culture, and so that leads me to my question. When you say that transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, I ask you, Mr. Knowles, how can we eradicate something that has been here as long as humans have?
Well, yeah, there have been all sorts of crazy, terrible ideas for a very long time, too. You're pointing to civilizations that committed human sacrifice, okay? You're saying that some ancient pagan tribe worshipped demons and therefore we need to castrate children. That's not a good argument. Yes, that's true. There were all sorts of terrible tribes. In fact, as recently as a little over 500 years ago, the Aztecs here in the Western Hemisphere slaughtered 80,000 people in a sacrifice to one of the demons that they worshipped within the span of 4 days. that's not a recommendation of doing that. I don't think that we ought to consider it. Though, unfortunately, in our increasingly pagan and liberal culture, we do commit human sacrifice to the tune of 800,000 babies a year sacrificed through abortion. And it would make the ask...
Who made this girl the spokesperson for Native Americans and indigenous people? And who told her it was a good idea to use instances from eras when murder was committed all in the name of sacrifice to their deities to prove her point?
Hi, I thought you had some really good points, but I just wanted to ask you about hybrids and stuff, because I'm here studying biology, and so we've learned a lot about genetic mutations and disorders and such, and there actually are hermaphrodite human beings where they have both ovaries and testicles, and that, I have it right here. It's actually a medical condition called ovotesticular disorder. And there are also other genetic disorders where people are born with XXY, XY, or just X or just Y and such. And while it may seem rare, there are hundreds of thousands of people born with this each year. And so going off of your fairy tale hybrid people, they do exist. And so I'm just wondering how that would play into your view of there being a spectrum of gender, because...
These are people who can get pregnant and also impregnate someone else?
Yes. Hermaphrodites, they have both ovaries and testicles.
No. If such a person existed, that would certainly, I would not include that part in my next speech. But such a person does not exist. Now, intersex and now the genetic deformities you're talking about obviously do exist, and I expected someone to bring that up in the Q&A. I think it's a fine point to bring up. Two things I would say to that. Number one, that actually has nothing to do with transgenderism, because when when we talk about transgender, we're talking specifically about intersex people, then we would just say intersex. But with transgender, most of the time, we're talking about men who, they don't have any deformity. They are just straight up men, clearly, and they are identifying as a woman. So even if I agreed that what you're talking about is some sort of exception, that actually would have nothing to do with the transgender topic. But I don't think it is an exception because, as I said, I think a true a true resident of the middle circle of the Venn diagram would be someone who has the reproductive capabilities of both genders. And no one like that exists. I mean, not to be crude, but there isn't anyone who can get themselves pregnant, right? And that doesn't exist in the human kingdom anyway. So I think what you're talking about there are people who have deformities, and so in their case, it would be more difficult than usual to determine what their actual biological sex is, because the usual indicators aren't there or aren't as obvious. But that doesn't mean that they don't have a biological sex. It's just not as clear.
It must be such a dark time to be a free-thinking biologist in this era, and time where everything you are taught and has proven to be scientifically correct is wrong, because a few confused people on social media got mad because they wanted to wear dresses and play dress-up when they were younger.
A lot of states, you've had a lot of states recently in the last few years take action to ban, I guess you would say, ID verify at the state level access to internet pornography, which has of course caused companies like MindGeek and Hub to freak out and say we're not going to allow you to access it in the state at all, which really kind of gives you some insight into the psychology of the average porn producer, right? Where they're like, oh, you're going to make it so minors can't view the content? Well, we're not going to do business with you anyways. And so it's like, okay, what really is the intent here behind a lot of this content? And also, I really don't think it's a complicated issue, honestly. I think that, we can debate about things, but ultimately it's like when you get a group of smart guys in those positions of power, near the levers of power, they can figure out how to do pretty much everything. I mean, this is the country that put a man on the moon or constructed a propaganda apparatus sophisticated enough to convince people it did. That seems to be significantly more difficult than just banning pornography, in my opinion. And it is true, a lot of your friends have made videos that were mocking me. I did not appreciate that. But I did see as well, you were mocking me from being of average height. I can't control that. I can't control my genetics. That wasn't you were mocking me. I did not appreciate that.
Asking my followers if I should wear heels tonight, and I did not.
I never mocked on her appearance, and there's plenty of subject matter there, believe me, but I never did it. So I didn't appreciate that. But ultimately, jokes aside, I think that...
Why should this even be a discussion? If you are going to stand there and debate that porn should be legal and easily accessible even to children because you have this sick, perverted version of free will, then you are part of what is wrong with society.
I am not the same as a...
Why? What's the distinction?
I'm not having with people.
Hang on. So let me get this right.
One
goes up to a guy's room and she just dances for him and he off to it. She's not.
Yeah, that is a.
Yeah, that's still.
But
So hang on.
contradicts
I'm never gonna let you evade, no matter how much you filibuster. Gonna have
also,
to answer.
there's many millionaires
You're
that
gonna
have
answer.
Bella Thorne, Daniel Brugoli, many millionaires. that
Finish this way.
Okay, maybe you've made nothing. Maybe you've made a couple $1,000. Congratulations.
Wait, but I think the argument.
I mean, I'm not a
so-
dude. I have ones, but I've also.
How's that not
I've made a lot more money than these girls sitting right here. So do you know what? Even people in my family
Then why
have
have the-
encouraged me to keep an because it generates more income. Why just sit in my house all day and just live off my savings? I could do that, but eventually, you know, that money's going to run out. Maybe like in 10, 15 years, whatever it may take. I $32,000 in a month.
Well, how much do you make?
It doesn't matter.
I thought you're a millionaire.
Close
I'm
to.
almost.
She said
yeah.
close to.
And I just had a C-section. I can't, like, hypothetically, if I were to work, it's going to be hard. And, you know, I just had the baby a month ago.
So,
Do
but I mean,
anything right now.
if you're making excuses to do work, how can you lecture people for making excuses when they're doing work?
I mean, they're young, so I had a.
You're 26.
I'm not young. I'm almost 30.
You're not walking around with a walker, Grandma.
I mean, I consider myself old. So when I see like young girls, I'm like, you know, you should have at least given it a chance, you know? I've been doing social media since 2016. I have almost
because
a
your
million
voice is
followers. I worked
loud.
my off for where I'm at now. Bye.
But you're still a.
I'm not a.
How is that not?
It's online. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to meet up with anyone.
Why would that matter?
Because that is a real. By definition, that is a problem.
Is somebody who sells favors for money.
You can get arrested for being a literal
unless you're
prostitute.
unless you're in Nevada, right?
That's the ranch. It's like an hour
Yeah,
away
so
from
you can
Nevada.
work legally.
Nevada,
What is the
yes.
actual distinction here between
It doesn't
a
matter.
prostitute?
The difference.
It doesn't matter.
Listen, wait. Can I finish? Okay, listen. The difference between me. The difference between me. Can I talk?
Can I talk? Can anybody else talk? Is it all gonna be you?
Between me and then I never have to work again.
First of all, can someone call the Child Protection Services on that lady using your pregnancy for clicks on a porn site? This is another level of weird. And then claiming to not be the true dirty human you are is just another level of crazy.
But the statistics don't lie. We know that if you raise the minimum wage, 2/3 of people in this country on the minimum wage are women. They need that help. We know that there is assault on women's healthcare rights from this administration, things like that.
Jess, please, I hate this selective feminism that we hear on the left all the time, okay? Well, don't make this a feminism issue because it's not a feminism
But it
issue. When
is,
you're
because-
going out and attacking
hold on, let
women, you're
Candace
not, I'm not done, okay? When you're going out and attacking women, you are not a feminist. It is not defensible whatsoever. And you sit here and you say that
I'm
it's
sorry,
because
what?
you care about mothers. The basis of this is that people are upset that illegal immigrants are being separated from their mothers. Why don't you refocus some of that energy to the black community? They've been having their families separated. In fact, it's subsidized in the black community. You appreciate single motherhood. You are giving more money to families for
Why do they do this? Instead of focusing on the real issues at hand, they bring up topics like feminism and women's rights when they need it to favor their political agenda. Selfish people will always do selfish things, and they will always remain that way.
Saying Jews will not replace us good people, yes or no?
They're bad people, Clay. People who are Nazis are bad people, Clay.
That's not what I asked you.
I've answered this 5 times.
No, you haven't. You've chosen to answer it the way you
We'll
want
go
to
back
answer
in the
it.
tape later and
You're
see if I answer it.
rewording.
I
You're
think we'll be able to
rewording.
find that I did
You're
it. This
rewording.
is what Clay, what you're doing right now is exactly what the mainstream media did to Trump at Charlottesville. It's the exact same thing. I gave a perfectly clear answer, and then you tried to pretend that I didn't.
I
You did
feel
the
so
same
bad
exact
for
thing.
you. I feel so badly for you.
Why do you
It's
feel
very
badly
easy
for
to
me?
play a victim. Let me ask you this.
Why do you feel
Let me
badly
ask
for
you
me?
this. Hey, guys. You can boo all you want to. I don't give a Okay, listen.
I think our rhetoric is too extreme.
Let me ask you
Clay.
this.
How do you ask a question and when the answer is not to your liking, you tell? The louder your voice is does not equal a more valid opinion. Admit to being wrong and learn, or better still, stay home. Do not come to debate what you know nothing about.
Before we go, I should point out there are people in the back of the room who have put
tape over their mouths as though they've been censored, as though they're not able to speak. So I just like to take the opportunity. Nobody is stopping you from speaking. We're actually inviting you to speak. If anybody would like to come up and ask a question, now's your opportunity. You can cut the entire line. Would anybody who has masking tape over their mouths, well, you don't have masking tape. You can come ask a question too. But I mean specifically the people who are making a statement and saying, I am being censored. Would any of you like to remove the masking tape, which you put on yourself, and come up here and ask a question, or would you rather stand back there and play the victim?
You claim you are being censored and your opinions are not being heard, but here you are placing tape over your mouth, which makes you unable to voice those said opinions that you have played the victim for all these times. Talk about the classic way of looking for attention.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and only ladies and gentlemen it is and shall always be. I am an 18-year-old high school student and wanted to take this time to bring to your attention the current issue with biological men claiming they are women and in turn truly believing that they are entitled to use women's spaces. There was an incident within our district that occurred recently regarding a transgender woman who really is a biological man having an altercation with a young woman at MLK High School. It was infuriating when I had seen the video on social media, but what was detrimental to this is the fact that this man is and has been using the women's restroom and locker room. Firstly, the question we must address is why are we affirming the mental confusion of this boy and putting the safety of women in jeopardy by allowing mentally confused men to use the women's spaces? Of course, any male who claims he is a woman will accept it, but what about the women? What about the true girls like myself who are female down to our DNA? Why don't we ever get a say in whether or not we are comfortable with this? The truth is, we aren't. The majority of us aren't, and yet nothing has been done to protect the safety of these women. I will conclude with this. It all starts with you. You are in charge of the safety of us women and the kids of our parents. So please do something about it. Thank you.
Predators are now choosing to put on dresses and claim to be trans to prey on innocent young women, and the society is just affirming their actions just to be woke. Imagine little girls having to use the same restroom as grown men who like to play dress up. The world surely has gone mad.
Can I say something respectfully? I come from a very toxic household too. I've been working since I was 16 years old. I've never sold my body. I did everything I could to get to where I'm at. I'm a licensed therapist now and I content create. Do you know how hard it took me to get to where I'm at? And I've never sold my body. So when you're saying that, it's kind of like of an excuse. I'm not trying to attack you whatsoever because like I said, it's your life, whatever, but you're using the excuse of having a toxic family. I didn't have a mom. I didn't have a lot of things growing up. So you could work at a warehouse. You can do a lot of things. I make 6 figures now because of social media, but I had to get up there. I used to bartend just like her, and I didn't want to do that. I used to wash dishes. I used to work in a freaking warehouse loading trailers. You think a girl wants to do that? No. So when you guys are saying this stuff and then talking about God, it makes no sense. If you cared a lot about God, you'd follow the way he wants you to be, not however you think you should be. And like the excuses to me, I'm not trying to be rude, but it just sounds crazy.
Well, you know, like I know it sounds crazy, like I do and I sin, but I still pray to God every day.
So if I steal every single day and tell God, please, thank you, like how does that work? If I go hurting people in this world and then say, oh, God forgives me, you're not learning your lesson. Okay, when you
imagine saying, because I didn't get enough love from mommy and daddy, I'm going to open an OnlyFans and start making porn. I guess everyone who had a traumatic childhood and came from a toxic family has a free pass to act in whatever way they wish because that is the only way to justify your experiences.
Earl, members of the board, my name is Craig Schubert. I'm the mayor of this city. It has come to my attention that your educators are distributing essentially what is child in the classroom. I've spoken to a judge this evening. She's already confirmed that. So I'm going to give you a simple choice. You either choose to resign from this Board of Education or you will be charged. Thank you.
He said what he said and didn't need to repeat himself. If you cannot be trusted around children, then you shouldn't be around them.
It's not propaganda. See it for yourself. We've both been inside these places and we've seen what is happening to non-human animals, and it is an absolute atrocity. It is more than abuse. It's the largest Holocaust in history, with 3 trillion individuals brutally murdered every year just for human food consumption.
My place.
How do you know?
Because if you had, you'd know that you're talking a load of...
And what animals do you farm? What is your industry, may I
I run a
ask?
goat dairy.
First and foremost,
I run a goat dairy. Now, for a start, we don't our animals.
Yes, you use euphemisms such as artificial insemination, which
I
is
don't
great.
use artificial insemination. I run with my herd. My get the girls when the girls are in season, and only then. And it's their choice, nature's choice. We allow our kids to stay on their mother. We only take the excess milk. So you're talking a load.
But you're making profit from animals, right? They're commodities to you.
No,
you
I
have
sell
ownership
their
over
milk
them.
so that they can get food. They get fed. They get fed better than I do.
Our argument here is that
No,
milk should
your
be bred
argument,
into
your
existence
argument,
in the first
your
place
argument,
to be
your
made
argument has nothing to
commodified.
do with exactly what I do. So until
You are abusing your animals.
No,
That's
I'm
what
not.
you do. Yes.
Let me ask
You're
you
making
something.
profit
If
from
I'm
them.
abusing my animals, why is it that I can walk out in the... I can call them by name, and every single one of my animals come up and want to rub their faces on me? If I'm abusing them, why are they so friendly to me?
You want to claim a point so bad that you are not ready to listen to a voice of reason. That's how you know that we are declining as a society. Talk about abusing animals.
Oh, you're bending down. Are you sure you aren't going to break it?
No, my actually in better shape than yours.
You want to tell me why that is?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I exercise and you don't.
Yeah, because you exercise and I don't. As a comment of my, you need to leave me the hell alone.
Yeah, okay.
Dumb bitch, you don't scare me.
Guess what? You don't scare me. What kind of lesson you teach me, Somebody had this on video.
Being woke literally means I get to talk shit about you, but you don't get to talk shit about me. But sadly, that's not how the world works.
That belt, is that belt from leather or is that an artificial?
Yeah, it's vegan leather. Yeah.
Okay, but it's leather.
Yeah, it's not someone's skin.
So it's actually an artificial product.
Yeah, it's vegan. Yes.
No, it's an artificial product.
Yes.
That's the question I'm
Yeah,
asking.
no one was shot in the head for my belt.
Yeah, but it is leather.
Yes,
So
vegan
it came
leather.
from an animal.
No, it's vegan leather, so it's a synthetic material, and no one was shot in the head.
So
and
that
it's
bit
not
of
someone else's
synthetic
skin.
material you've got, that produced as much CO2 as driving my car from here to Darwin. That's correct.
Can I see the scientific resource for
Well,
that
you've only got to
information?
go to WHO, the United
fact-
Nations WHO website. That will actually show you that for every 500 grams of synthetic material created, it produces as much CO2 as driving 2,000 kilometres.
Animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gases than the world's
I
entire
agree.
transport.
If you think you can smack away other people's beliefs and opinions and try to enforce yours on them, then you have another thing coming. Solve your own problems before you talk about others.
I just have to say that I object strenuously to your use of the word hilarious. To me, this feels a lot like your reaction to being named in one of these manifestos. Now, you're of course not responsible for the words of somebody writing that document, but I do think that laughing at it is a real problem because these are real families that are impacted by this violence. And I think our efforts towards talking about this have to start from a place of mutual respect, which is what I've heard from this side of the table. Now, the reason we don't have those numbers, I want those numbers as much as you do, but to say the numbers don't show something is simply not supported by the data.
Okay, and I have 38 seconds left, Ms. Mulligan, if you want to respond within that time.
The only thing I would add is that it's in the name.
terrorism, domestic terrorism, it terrorizes us. It terrorizes us in our homes. It terrorizes us in our schools. And to the points made by the other panelists, it is disproportionate to its impact on any individual life, and it's not.
You reject the idea it's something that doesn't matter, or it doesn't really matter?
Absolutely reject.
Okay. All right, so here's where we are. Every member now has had 5 minutes and... Okay, and Mr. Clay, so we have 2 members who have not. So I'm going to go to the 2 members who have not yet, and we'll give an opportunity for a closing thought to any member who wants before we go.
Am I next to respond, or is Mr. Meadows?
I thought Mr. Meadows was
Mr.
next.
Meadows, okay.
Mr. Meadows is next, then Mr. Clay, then to you, Mr. Jordan.
Ms. Owens, obviously this is a gang up on you. You know, we're giving these witnesses the ability to do a rebuttal on you, and so you know, I find it unfair, Ms. Ballou. I mean, you know, candidly, for you to show mutual respect and then you to go after Ms. Owens, it's not appropriate. So, Ms. Owens, you can have 4 minutes and 34 seconds to respond. However,
Gentlemen, yield for a second.
I'll yield to.
Thank you. I believe, Ms. Owens, when you used the word hilarious, it was referencing the fact that no one had asked you a question. It wasn't to the subject matter of the hearing. Is that right?
That is correct.
And to have another witness insinuate something that is not accurate is just not appropriate, Mr. Chairman, for how witnesses are supposed to behave in front of this committee. I also think you didn't say it doesn't matter about the subject matter of today's hearing. You said there are other subjects that matter as well, and maybe we should spend some time on those. Is that accurate?
That is correct, and they matter much, 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 much more. And I have said that. I said that in my opening, and I will say it again. You know that white supremacy and white nationalism ranks nowhere near the top of the issues that are facing Black America. And the reason that you are bringing them up in this room is because it is an attempt to make the election all about race, as the Democrats
Not in my case, Ms. Owens. I'm sorry. Please do not characterize my motive.
Mr. Chairman, it's my time.
Yeah,
it's my time.
You've got your time, Mr. Meadows. I'll give you 3 more seconds.
Every 4 years, you bring up race, and you knew exactly what I meant when I said hilarious, and you just tried to do live what the media does all the time to Republicans, to our president, and to conservatives, which you tried to manipulate what I said to fit your narrative, okay? I was not referring to the subject matter that is hilarious. I said it's hilarious that we are sitting in this room today, and I've got 2 doctors and a missus, and nobody can give us real numbers that we can respond to so we can assess how big of a threat this is. Because you know that it is not as big of a threat as you are trying to make it out to be, so that you can manipulate. And the audacity of you to bring up the Christchurch shooting manifesto and make it seem as if I laughed at people that were slaughtered by a homicidal maniac is, in my opinion, absolutely despicable. And I think that we should be above that. To try to assign reality or any meaning to a homicidal maniac writing a manifesto, which, by the way, let the record show, also stated Spyro the Dragon, the child's cartoon, as a source of inspiration. He also cited Nelson Mandela as a source of information. I don't think that Nelson Mandela has inspired mosque shootings. You can correct me if you think I'm wrong. You would rather assign meaning to a homicidal maniac than to actually address the things that I said today that are actually harming Black America. Number 1, father absence. Number 2, the education system and the illiteracy rate. Illegal immigration ranks high, abortion ranks high, white supremacy and white nationalism, if I had to make a list again of 100 things, would not be on it. This hearing, in my opinion, is a farce, and it is ironic that you're sitting here and you're having 3 Caucasian people testify and tell you what their expertise are. Do I know what my expertise are? Black in America. I've been Black in America my whole life, all 30 years, and I can tell you that you guys have done the exact same thing every 4 years ahead of an election cycle, and it needs to stop.
When you think you can pick on someone and prove your point by tactfully picking on their word choices, do not try to hide away when they come back for you with facts that you cannot understand because you are too dumb to even hold an argument in the first place.
Okay, you guys are all just like really misogynistic.
How do you define misogyny? I'm just asking how you define misogyny.
Can I go?
Are you okay? Like, do you want to go as in leave?
Can I please go?
Yeah, no, look, if you want to leave, you can leave. I was hoping we could continue having a conversation, but
Let her go.
Okay, I mean,
This girl had a full-on breakdown because she couldn't define a very important word she and her movement use every day. These are the same people that think they can lead and be strong and independent. Just from looking at her, you can tell she's the type who's used to crying to get out of things.
You said that being transgender is this new ideology.
Yeah.
It's not. There's evidence of people who were transgender in ancient Greece, Rome. Judaism is an example of a religion that acknowledges, I think, 6 or 7 genders.
I don't think that's quite true. And my evidence for that would be in the very first book of the Torah, in Genesis. One of the most prominent lines is that in the beginning, God created man, both male and female created he them.
It's not, but Judaism, I think what the original translation, I can't cite my source right now, okay, but from what I've learned going to different religious schools is that
Jewish schools?
Just synagogues, temples. I've tried and experienced different religions. They said that the original text said Adam and Eve as in one being, one.
Well, man. So in the earliest chapters of Genesis, you have the creation of man in Adam. And then Eve is created from Adam's rib, but she would be the other sex. What you're citing is this line that a lot of people who are pro-transgender will say, which is, actually in some Native American tribe that I can't quite name right now, I'm sure they believe in a third and a fourth and a fifth gender, but that just isn't true. That is that's been made up by white liberals.
You know the movie Mulan, Disney Mulan?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Mulan, dresses as a man, right, goes to war. That's based off of true history.
Oh yes, cross-dressing has occurred in history.
Not just cross-dressing, but people who
in
went
Mulan, did the female character think she was a man?
No.
Oh, okay.
If you are going to use a cartoon character to prove your point, then I guess that settles itself.
Yeah, but it's not very good because they don't have access to...
Because it's socialistic.
No. They have universal health care in plenty of European countries, and it works just fine. The flaws with the Native American...
So I'm curious, how did Vermont's experiment in universal health care go?
I'm not from Vermont, so I don't know these things.
I didn't hear your response. Say that again.
I'm not from Vermont, so I don't know these things. I moved here 2 months ago.
Yeah, I still can't hear what you said. Say it one more time. You're wearing a mask. It's kind of hard. Can you say it again?
I moved here 2 months ago. I'm not from Vermont, so I don't know these things.
Right. So Vermont tried single payer. They had to abolish it. It was a total disaster. So look, I think the best way to help Native American communities is to help all people through empowerment and education. Instead, we tried a heavy-handed government approach of intervention of the Bureau of Native American Affairs, of universal health care. And if you want to go see a socialist dystopia, go to a Native American reservation. Maybe you have. Maybe you worked on Native American reservations before. I've been to plenty. They're depressing. They're government addicted, unfortunately, in more ways than one. They're very, very corrupt. And this is something I want to ask you. Would you self-identify as a socialist? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Ish.
I'm not a liberal. I'm more social. I'm
okay.
Socialist and liberal are different words, and I think conservatives confuse that a lot. They're completely different things. Okay.
No, we don't. So I'm just curious, as someone who would say you're a socialist, what would be a country you think works well that's a socialist country?
There are no socialist countries right now.
There are no has there ever been a socialist country?
Truly socialist? No.
Okay. So your worldview is on something that's never existed and currently doesn't exist?
Is it a bad thing to be pro-change?
Okay, so just so we're clear, the type of change you're advocating is horrifying. But so it's never existed, doesn't, and so I would say Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, formerly Vietnam, the Soviet Union, those are not and were not socialist countries?
The disastrous effects in those countries were directly contributed by U.S. intervention. There were multiple coups done by the CIA in those countries.
So let's take. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Let's take. I'm just curious. And so, how on earth did Fidel Castro taking over Cuba have anything to do with U.S. intervention?
There was plenty of sanctions. Economically, Cuba was completely cut off. There They tried to assassinate him plenty of times. There were so many
The
things
fact that they're
US did-
communist,
Yeah.
we had what to do with that?
We didn't have anything to do with that, but after a communist regime took over, they had
Yeah, so let me
Yeah.
ask you another. So first of all, Zimbabwe was not communist?
Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara.
Say that again?
Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso. Before he was assassinated, he was actually
How about Mugabe? He wasn't a communist? How about Joseph Stalin? He wasn't a communist?
Called himself
How
a
about
communist.
Mao Zedong? He wasn't a communist?
Yeah.
Pol Pot?
Plenty of terrible people have called themselves plenty of different names. North Korea,
Oh, so you get to be the
North Korea calls
judge. Got
themselves
it. Right. So I just want to make sure we complete the point. You believe in something that doesn't exist, has never existed, and even though the people that call themselves the things that you believe, you say they weren't really that, which is the most important point. Socialism is always judged against an impossible utopia, and they judge markets against a reality. And here's the truth of the matter. That markets, which you enjoy comfortably in Western society, is the most proven affluent creating machine in human history. And I would just challenge you to do one thing. Please stop believing in a utopian nightmare and start looking at things around you that are good, that are true, that are beautiful, that work, and are consistent with the natural law. You'll be a much happier person if you do that.
Nothing to see here, guys. Just another wokie who has no idea what she's saying, but because she thinks she is passionate about the subject, then that justifies and validates her opinion.
Looks and how it's reflected outwards to other people, right? I'm adding this value, this value, this value, this value, this value, like a mathematical formula to come up with that equals 4. What are you doing to come up with that other than I just think that we should have high self-esteem so that because I just think so.
Because I know I'm a good person. Because frankly, if we want to get aesthetic, I don't have a busted face. I'm fat. And if people want to reduce my value because of my fatness, that's not my problem. And that is not the ideology I hold for myself. I am someone who is pursuing weight loss, not for aesthetics, not for looks, but for my health. And it is something I'm moving forward with because I have been for the past 2 to 3 years now working on my self-love and loving myself into a place to care enough about myself to take my health back into control. When I was being consistently shamed when I was gang stalked on r/fat people hate in 2015, when I have
Looks like it worked.
I'm still speaking.
I mean, it looks like it works.
I'm still
right?
speaking.
It
and you
works
get-
because you're going to
You know,
change.
you're really great at over talking and being disrespectful, and I'd love the opportunity to get my point across.
Okay, but so just to cut in here a little bit, the original question was rate your looks
Yeah.
because you mentioned your personality. You have a great personality or whatever it is.
And like I said, my fatness doesn't devalue me.
Why?
So I'm an 8.
Why doesn't it?
Because I think that fat
'Cause you
can be beautiful. It's my assessment of my looks, right?
Yeah, but why is it that your own assessment of your looks has nothing to do with how the external world perceives you? That's my
Because
problem.
I don't give a shit.
Right, because you don't care, so there's no
I
real
don't care
value
about-
judgment.
I don't care about other people's
how can
opinion
you-
of
how
me.
can
It's
you
not
speak
more
for
important
the
than the
rest
opinion
of
of
the
I hold of
world?
myself.
Yeah,
and
it
if you
is.
if you don't live that way, that sucks for you.
If there's a value judgment of how you would self-assess your own looks, the only possible conceivable metric I could even think of would be the perception of how other people view you for your value judgment of how.
Do these girls realize that they can choose to love themselves and have a high self-esteem without being delusional narcissists?
Does the fact that African Americans in general commit more crimes than white people, like, change your mind on that at all?
You can have stats on something, but it doesn't change the fact that every single person is an individual.
I was reading this thing, it said whites and Hispanics are more likely to be shot by the cops than black people are. Police officers are 18 times more likely to be killed by a black man than a black man is to be killed by a police officer. Actually, blacks are shot less than white people.
Problem with saying you're against the death penalty, but then allowing tons, millions of unborn babies to be sentenced to death in a facility?
This can be over now. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that.
I don't see it that way. I'm surprised that you're asking the question in that particular way. We're talking about a being that is not born, has not lived. You're not alive until you've been loved and wanted.
So, homeless people that are not wanted, they have no family, they're not loved, we can just go out and take them off the streets, do whatever we want? They're not alive?
I think you've just called an end to this. If that's your stance, I don't want to talk to you.
That's your stance. You said if someone's not loved and wanted, they're not alive.
Bye. Thank you.
In the face of truth, if all you can do is hide and decide to not accept it, then you should have no opinion.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you guys this question. Well, okay, if you'll stop chanting, I'll address your point. Here's something interesting. Where is Dr. Ford? You know, this is really interesting. When I noticed that when Roy, hold on, don't shout at me, you'll have a chance to ask questions. When Roy Moore was attacked by all these women, he oppressed me, he did this, he did that. And suddenly, when he's defeated, they all melt into air. This is Karl Marx, all that is solid melts into air. Suddenly, the media, hold on, don't shout at me, don't shout at me. No, you came voluntarily. Did I ask you to come? No, don't shout at me. I'm defending fascism. No, I'm exposing you as a fascist. Because, do you realize, I'll tell you how. You asked me a question. Hold on. Are you familiar with the black shirts in Italy or the brown shirts in Germany? Do you realize that they would go to campuses, goons, and would stand in the back of the room, and when somebody tried to make an intelligent presentation and answer questions, they would shout them down, yell at them, try to intimidate them, and count as success if they could get the event canceled and the speaker threatened. But see, the problem is, sometimes you get speakers like me who are not scared of people like you. We recognize your frauds. I recognize that ultimately you are afraid of ideas. You're not willing to engage with me. Yes, you're afraid of ideas. You're not afraid of fascists. You think I pose a threat to you? I'm an immigrant. I came to America with nothing. What threat do I pose to you?
When they finally meet someone who's not afraid to call them out on their nonsense and put them in their place.
My question for you is more based on discourse. In a climate right now with what's going on outside and what can happen in here, the word bigot being thrown around, how do we maintain a level of intellectual discourse that keeps conversation happening instead of not happening?
Use of the word bigot, you got to be very careful, because when I was here at Dartmouth, I was a freshman here in the aftermath of what's called the Berkeley Free Speech Movement. And it was all these guys who were like, free speech, free speech, free speech. And we supported them. Our newspaper on campus was partly modeled on the Berkeley Barb that was behind this kind of activism. It's only later I realized that when those guys take control, they will immediately start suppressing the speech of others. In other words, they don't actually believe in free speech. They believe in free speech for them. Bigot is a very loaded term. And because it has real sting and applies to real people, there's an effort to try to pin it on people. See, like these guys are walking out, they're too lazy to debate with me. They're not going to. I mean, they aren't. They aren't. Because, I'll tell you why.
You want to win an argument by default, but can't even stand to defend your own beliefs. Talk about being lazy and entitled.
Or there's the flesh, there's the stuff, but then there's the form, which tells you about what that thing is. And so my liver might look a lot like your liver, but they're different livers. One's mine, for instance, and one is yours. So you don't have a right to mine, and I don't have a right to yours, because your liver is for you, and my liver is for me. And we all know this, and we all act that way. That's why you're not coming up here and attacking me and ripping my kidneys out and selling it on a market in Wuhan or something like that. But we pretend that we don't believe these things because it helps to advance an argument which is totally indefensible and unnatural, namely that we ought to kill a baby or something like that.
So your organs are for you and you alone. You get to decide what to do with them. But a woman doesn't get that choice about her womb, about her ovaries.
Well, the baby
about
is
her
not
uterus.
an organ of
No,
hers. A baby is an individual human
you get to make choices
being.
about your internal organs, but a living, breathing woman does not.
Well,
okay, I understand.
No,
Thank
I
you.
don't think you do understand, because I don't think you understand very well at all, unfortunately, because you're suggesting that the baby is an organ of the woman, which is preposterous, obviously. You know, the baby is differentiated from organs by its DNA, by how it will develop, by, I don't think she's listening to the rest of my answer. Matt!
And like a true coward, she ran away when she came face to face with real facts and opposition. Which Wokey getting humbled was your absolute favorite, and which Wokey got you kicking up your feet in laughter? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe so you can keep enjoying this train wreck.